How we doing, folks? Welcome back to the Nightmare Cabin. I've got an album review for you, and I am like a coiled spring on this one because I've been waiting for this for ages. I pre-ordered the album. I managed to get a download of it as well, advance, from the record company, and I was listening to it, and the plan was this CD would land on release day, and I'd have a nice review for you out on release day. And it didn't happen because the CD's only just turned up today. I don't know what went on. It just looks like there was some sort of delay. Who knows? Maybe there was a misprint. Maybe there was just a backlog in the factory. I don't know. But it was frustrating because I did see people posting photos of the album, but I realised that was the vinyl. So it seems like the vinyl was all right. It was the CD that was the problem. But anyway, it's finally arrived. So let's get into it. This is State of Emergency by Prong, and I feel like I've met up with an old mate that I've not seen in ages. So Prong are one of my favourite bands, and I know I always say this, but I do fully intend on doing a retrospective video one day soon, going through the band's entire back catalogue. I've been into Prong as long as I've been into metal, basically. I sort of jumped on board around the Scorpio Rising period, and then I've been a fan ever since. So where do I start, really? I suppose if for the uninitiated, if you're not familiar with Prong are a band that started in the late 80s and sort of came into prominence in the 90s. Beg to Differ in 91 was the sort of breakthrough album. That was the breakthrough album. There was an album and a couple of EPs and singles and whatnot before then. But yeah, Beg to Differ was the breakthrough. Then the real sort of big hit really was Cleansing in 1996, I believe. With the big... No, that was 1994. Then they followed it up with Rude Awakening in 1996. And that was kind of like the golden period, really, in terms of, I think, like commercial... That was when they were at their biggest, really. 94, 96, around, Cleansing and Rude Awakening. They got like a lot of MTV play with the song Snap Your Fingers, Snap Your Neck, which is still their biggest song. That was the first song I heard as well. Tommy Victor, I think, is one of the most underrated guitar players, one of the most underrated songwriters, and from what I can tell, one of the hardest working musicians in music today. I think he does a bit of production as well, but it seems like his main sort of income really is playing either for Danzig or for Ministry, and then he does Prong when he can. But with that being said, Prong have been pretty prolific, and they've only really had a break recently, but I think that was mainly down to the shit show. I don't know if this is an album that was recorded, that was ready to go, and with the lockdowns and all the rest of it, it got delayed, or if this was recorded afterwards. I'm not sure what the situation is, but there was an EP that came out in 2019, and I was under the impression that was like a little taster for an album to come. But I'll just go through some releases. So, as I say, they have been pretty prolific in the last 10 years. So from 2012, you had Carved into Stone. So 2012, you've got an album. 2014, you've got a live album and an album. So that was Unleashed in the West as the live album, and then Ruining Our Lives. So 2 releases in 1 year, 2014. A covers album in 2015, Songs from the Black Side. Then 2016, we've got X, No Absolutes, well, X meaning 10. 2017, so we're getting an album a year at the moment. 0 Days. And then in 2019, we got the EP, Age of Defiance. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 albums, a live album, and an EP in the period of 7 or 8 years. And that's only broke now. So 2019, now we're in 2023. That only broke because of everything that went on. So I wonder how many, if they were just left to their own accord and that didn't happen, I wonder how many albums we would have had by now. But we are where we are, and what happened. But yeah, it feels things are starting to feel normal again because we've got a Prong album. I was getting one a year at one point, and I was loving it. And it seems to me that when you speak to people that know Prong, the majority of them do seem to be, Cleansing was good, or Cleansing and Rude Awakening were good, and then one further than that, Beg to Differ was good. And I don't know that many people that are into their newer stuff, because from 2012, I mean, you got Carved into Stone in 2012, which I think is probably my favourite Prong album. But everything after it was just as good. And those 5 albums are the best material the band ever did. Beg to Differ and Cleansing and Rude Awakening, they have their places in the metal canon. But Tommy Victor, the songwriter, with the lineups that he had, obviously where he's in different bands and he's got different projects, it tends to be a 3-piece. Sometimes they're a 4-piece, but they tend to be a 3-piece. And the bass player and drummer tends to be a bit of a revolving door. He did have a bass player that was with him for quite a few years. Let's look that guy up because he was pretty good. He was in the live. He was always in the live band. He wasn't always on the albums, but is this the guy, Mike Longworth? No, that don't look like him. Let's have a look at. But you had Art Cruz, who went on to is now in Lamb of God. Don't forget as well, you had Monty Pittman in the band for a little while, back in a few years back now, and he ended up playing for Madonna. So it doesn't do anyone's career any harm being in Prong. I think, here we go, Jason Christopher is the guy I was talking about. I think between Prong and Annihilator, that's like, but those two bands, it's like that's the metal apprenticeship workshop. At some point, you have to either be in Prong or Annihilator, and you always go on to do well. But I've got ahead of myself. Right, yeah, basically Prong, they established the Tommy Victor's. He started out apparently as a sound engineer for CBGB's in New York, and then Prong eventually formed in the 80s, kind of out of the hardcore scene. There's definitely, I don't want to say there was a hardcore band, but there's a hardcore element to the sound. I think, the first early days was probably crossover thrash with a bit of hardcore punk thrown in for good measure. Sort of like a punky edge. Tommy Victor, he established a guitar tone, a certain sound, and a certain style of riff. He always had sort of odd-timed riffs. Excuse me. And that sort of led into that sort of 90s crunch that came with that 90s sort of groove sounds. You know, a lot of the thrash bands would sort of adopt like a more groovier sound as the 90s went on. Think Overkill, think Forbidden, or think anyone that didn't split up. So think Pantera, I think that's the big example, which, would lead into sort of groove metal, and then that would lead inevitably into nu metal. For better, for worse, I think Tommy Victor doesn't get the credit he deserves. As a guitar player, as a songwriter, and he's, from what I can tell, he's one of the hardest working musicians going today. And I think he should be a multi-millionaire, and I shouldn't be seen. I've seen Prong a bunch of times in, small clubs, which is great for me, but they should be playing massive venues, and I should be complaining about how they've sold out and they're shit now. But yeah, it's one or the other, isn't it? But yeah, they're really prolific. They've got a fantastic back catalogue, and I think the best Prong music has been made in the last 10 years. I think their golden period has actually been from 2012. And with that little break, I wonder if the shit show hadn't happened, how many albums would we have had by now? But with all that being said, State of Emergency basically picks up where they left off. This is, maybe I'm happy to say now, this is the mark of a new era. We can go right from 2012 to 2019. That's a little era that we can put behind us. And now we're starting a nice, new, fresh... It's a new decade, really, isn't it? This is the first 2020s album. but 2010's Prong is fantastic. So yeah, new decade for Prong, and yeah, we're picking up where we left off. Basically, we're things are still going full steam ahead, and we've got that perfect mixture of Tommy Victor's signature guitar sounds and signature style of riffs mixed in with the perfect formula of thrash metal, hardcore and punk in a post-punky kind of way. Think Killing Joke. And Paul Raven, who was in Killing Joke, was also in Prong for a while. There's another guy that joined Prong and did all right, who's no longer with us as well. God bless him. Yeah, I think I pretty much summed that up. Yeah, nice thick guitar sound, which made the way for groove metal and new metal. Think hardcore, think thrash, think bit of industrial. Yeah, there we go. So don't think full on industrial with keyboards and drum machines and shit like that, but there's an industrial post-hardcore urban to it. I think that's the best way I can put it. So yeah, I think I've pretty much summed up the sound. For those of you that aren't initiated, basically Prong are great. Go with listen to them. For those of you that are in the know, though, yeah, I think we've been on a winning streak for 10 years now, and this just carries it on. It's got that dark, dystopian, concrete, urban grittiness to it that Prong have never lost. This is the soundtrack for this time of year when it's always dark. If you're in a city where lamp posts and lights of neon signs are the only light you get, and it's raining and you're in a bit of a rough area, you're not in immediate danger, but you don't really want to stay here longer than you have to. You're in that sort of... It's a perfect soundtrack for a dark, nightmarish backdrop, shall we say, like the artwork here perfectly displays. Songs, right. Everything you want is here. But this just basically just plays perfectly. This plays like a live set. I would be more than happy. I would not feel shortchanged at all if I went to see Prong next week and they just did this new album in full. The Descent is a nice thrashy opener, nice fast, energetic opener that sort of hits the ground running as we open up. State of Emergency is nice and groovy. Nice sort of bouncy, which they're known for. Massive hooks, choruses that stick in your brains for days. That is what Prong are good for. Is it Breaking Point or is it Non-Existence? It's a basic truth. Gotta wait the basic truth. Yeah, fucking brilliant. Non-Existence. I can't remember which one's which now. Light Turns Black, I think, is another really good one. Well, they're all really good. I'm trying to think of the choruses. I'm going to have to go through some lyrics. But everything is really good. Everything is sequenced out nicely. So a fast song will be followed up by a nice groovy song. Light Turns Black. Why is that making me... why is that ringing a bell? There's Oh, Jason is on this new album as well. So, Light Turns Black. Nowhere to... Yeah, Nowhere to Live. Dun, dun. Yeah, that's got a nice big open sort of... Nowhere to Live. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, why am I singing it here? You don't. But yeah, Non-Existence with the... I thought the song was called Basic Truth because that's what's repeated over and over in the chorus, but it's called Non-Existence. But or is it Breaking Point? Let me look it up. That's a really catchy number. No, it is Non-Existence. All the songs on this are good though. Again, everything's catchy, everything's full of hooks. But for me, the album, the climax of the album is it's Obscience, Disconnected, and Compliance. As tracks 7, 8, and 9. That is like a perfect trilogy of songs. Excuse me. And that's where things get really sort of climatic in a way, and they're really dark. Especially the track Compliant. It's got this fantastic riff that enemies of the regime, you know, and it's just fucking awesome. Obscience is got a good one. Again, great guitars on that, great like sort of licks with it all. Again, this is all songs as well about dystopian futures, really. On it's basically just frustrations of life as well. Disconnected is another really great. Yeah, those three songs together really sort of encapsulate the album for me. That's like the central part of it, and it's funny because those three songs, up until that point, everything's nice. You know, you've got a good mixture of songs. Everything's energetic. You've got nice groovier numbers. You've got some blistering solos, pummeling drums on this as well. I have to look up who drummed on this album. Again, Prong have had their share of drummers throughout the years, and if you're learning to drum, you want to be as good as Prong's worst. You know, Griffin McCarthy, who's been in Sunlord, Old Bones, and Despire. I think that is. I've not heard of any of them, to be honest, but he does a really good job on this album, and Tommy has a knack for picking out young upcoming talent. So the album seems to climax with Compliant, and then it seems like we have, but they're not bonus tracks, but for me, when I said the album plays like a live gig, it seems like the last two tracks are like the encore. So you've got Back NYC. That is like a fun song. So it's like the Compliant song. So between Obscience, Disconnected, and Compliant, it's like the climax of the album, and then it's like sigh of relief. Right, now we can have fun. And Back NYC, it's kind of like a hardcore song. It's a fun, bouncy. You picture a mosh pit to it, and then we get a cover of Working Man by Rush, and they kind of prong the song up. They make that riff. They make that prong riff, you know. And it's especially good with the jammy bit at the end, you know, like you know, and yeah. So it's kind of like what we got. How many tracks are on this? Yeah, it's 12 tracks in total, but it feels like you've got 10 tracks with two fun numbers at the end. It's like a 10-track. No, it's 11 tracks. Sorry, so it's like a 9-track body of work with two encore songs tacked on for fun at the end. But yeah, it's just great to have them back. Basically, I'm just really happy to have a Prong album, and it's a fantastic addition to a near perfect back catalogue. Really, I mean, yeah, I think I'm looking forward to doing a retrospective video actually and having a listen. But you know, even on their worst, it's 7 out of 10. It's still solid. You know, their worst album will have one of their best songs still on it. So, yeah, I'm happy with this. Definitely get it if you're a fan of Prong. Even the most casual of fans, definitely check this out. And if you've not heard of Prong, this is as good a place to start as any, I think. But yeah, check this out. Definitely get into Prong. But yeah, obviously, Beg to Differ and Cleansing and Rude Awakening, but Beg to Differ is the breakthrough. But for me, 2012 onwards, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong anyway. There isn't a bad Prong album. But yeah, for me, 2012 onwards is where it's at. And yeah, this is as good a place to start as any, really. Let's have a look inside as well, because I haven't even looked at this yet. I took it out of cellophane just as I pressed record. So here we go. What have we got in here? This looks like a poster. Right, so we've got that. And then And then what we got on the other side. I think we just got lyrics. See if we've got any band photos. No, that's the other side of the poster that I shared just a minute ago. Nope, that's it really. And then the credits there. So yeah, state of emergency, Prong. Go get it now, basically. And that's it. So thanks for watching, folks. If you've made it to the end, all I ask is one of them. Thanks to my subscribers and all the regular viewers. If you fancy helping out the channel and giving me a bit of an incentive to keep going, making more content, I'll kind of just make it where I can at the moment. But if you want me to make more and more, you want to help the channel out, in the description I've got a buy me a coffee link. I thought I'd just dip my toe in and see what happens. I'm not really that bothered, but liking and sharing, I'm happy with that. But if you fancy buy me a pint, no, coffee, yeah, buy some coffee. Yeah, you can do. So thanks for watching, everyone. And yeah, the reviews are coming as always, and I've got a retrospective that I'm really gonna try and get this retrospective video out by the weekend, and then I can move on to other bands. And Prong they are on the list of bands I've got to cover eventually. So yeah, stick with me, folks, and I'll be seeing you all soon. Have a good weekend. See you all later. Take care.